Welcome everyone to this very first 2018 edition of QB Talks. Now I'm getting a little odd message here, so I want to make sure that everyone can hear me. If you cannot hear me, please type "I can't hear you" in the chat window. I'm assuming everyone can hear me. Okay, great. So my name is Bill Murphy. Almost everybody knows me as Murph. I'll be your host today. I'm running kind of solo in that Gary is out and can't do any of the technical stuff, but I'll be trying to do that as well as cover a portion of today's material. Today we're going to provide a deep dive into the newly released QuickBooks Online fully automated sales tax feature, and we're also going to be looking at the beta price rules. Intuit began rolling out these features in November and December. The sales tax is going out to only brand new QBO clients, and they will be migrating over the next several months. And because it's a radical change in the way sales tax is done, we felt like it was very important to try to provide a more in-depth coverage of this particular feature. And then about the same time, price rules came out, and everybody was really surprised about that. And so we thought we'll just try to get both of those covered. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm an advanced certified QuickBooks Pro advisor. I have a technology practice based in Oklahoma City. And because I'm trying to retire, I am ridding myself of clients even as we speak. But I also happen to be the senior editor for Insightful Accountant, and we bring you QB Talks. And so this is my opportunity to present material that sometimes we're able to cover in print, and sometimes we feel like it's more viable to cover it in a webinar environment. Joining me today will be Liz Scott, our QBO contributing author, who will be presenting the content on price rules. And Liz will introduce herself when we get to her section. We also have a couple of experts from Intuit with us today. Lauren Kaminsky is part of the team supporting the new sales tax feature. She's here to help answer your questions about the new functionality, and I will be turning on her question panel so she can do that in just a few moments. We also have Cheryl Raines with us, who is part of the team working on the new price rules for QBO, which is in beta. And Cheryl will be taking your questions about that new feature. But as always, we have to cover a few basics, and one of those is our sponsorship. We only have one sponsor today, that's Canon Image Formula Document Scanners. Canon's been one of our long-term sponsors, and they also are our premier sponsor for the Top 100 and Pro Advisor of the Year awards. I don't know about you, but I have a Canon scanner and I love my Canon scanner. Canon is a leading name in images, and they're also a leading name in scanners. The problem is not enough people have known about their scanner product line. They knew Canon for copiers and Canon for cameras, but they had no idea that Canon made scanners. But Canon does have a full range of scanners: portable scanners, desktop units, wireless and network units, even high-speed and high-capacity units. So if you are thinking about getting a new scanner, then you should certainly check out Canon. And if you'd like more information, including a white paper on how Canon scanners can streamline your workflow, then just go ahead and respond yes to the poll question that I am now opening. And we will only provide your contact information if you answer yes. But I do need to have at least 85% of you respond to the poll. So if you would go ahead and vote as quickly as possible, then we will be closing this poll. All right. And I want to thank you all for participating in the poll. Let me mention that we have dropped our evening live presentation of QB Talks. While I know that some of you may have attended the evening session in the past, the numbers of attendees simply were not there to support continuing the live evening presentation. So we'll only be presenting the live QB Talk webinars at the midday this year. Today's webinar is being recorded. Both the recording and a PDF of the PowerPoint will be available within a few days from the Insightful Account website. To find those, simply go to our homepage and type the word archives in the search box. That's highlighted in red on the screen you're now seeing. And you'll be able to find the links to all of our past webinars and the PDFs supporting those. I'll take this opportunity to also open a poll if you are not already signed up for the Insightful Accountant newsletter. And so I'm going to launch that poll real quick. And again, if you are not already signed up, just answer yes, and we'll get you on the mailing list. And if you're already signed up, we see that too. I think probably most of you are already reading Insightful Accountant. And if so, you know we launched today our first ever Women in Accounting Wednesday series. And we've already gotten a lot of interest in people who want to participate in that in the future. So I'm going to go ahead and close that poll. All right. In late November, Intuit began notifying QuickBooks Online users that sales tax processing would be changing, with the first of such changes coming to totally new U.S. subscribers of QBO. As you know, essentially every business that sells merchandise and sometimes taxable services has to account for, collect, and remit sales tax. And if you have just a little shop that sells merchandise out of your storefront and you never ship to anywhere, then your sales tax is pretty simple, at least in terms of rates. You can still have taxable items and non-taxable items, and perhaps even items that are taxable only above a certain amount. And you may also have some exempt and non-exempt taxable customers, in addition to the run-of-the-mill taxable customer who makes up the majority of your business. But even with all of those changes, it's still fairly simple. But more and more small businesses are selling online, and they're shipping products to who knows where. And this thing that we call Nexus means that they're likely to have to deal with a wide range of very different sales tax rules and regulations. And no matter what sales tax it is, it won't be simple because there'll be so many variations. Now, a couple of years ago, I worked with the people at Avalara on a 50-part series covering the sales and use tax requirements of every state in the United States. And there's a tremendous amount of variation. For example, a winter coat might be taxable anywhere here in Oklahoma, but in some northern states where a good or expensive winter coat is considered a necessity, it might not be taxable at all. Then there are those places where sales tax rates change across the street. You might be paying 8.375 at your location, and directly across the street, your neighbor might be paying 8.5% in sales tax. Up until now, the sales tax feature in QBO has been rudimentary. You had to manually enter your sales tax rates and keep them up to date on your own. Determining what sales tax to apply in different situations could be extremely difficult. That's why a lot of people using QuickBooks products like Desktop and Point of Sale and QBO made use of services like Avalara that integrated with the software to do the sales tax for them. Well, Avalara wasn't the only sales tax kit on the block. And last October, Intuit announced that they were acquiring Exactor, another cloud-based provider of sales and use tax calculation and filing. And soon thereafter is when Intuit began rolling out their new automated sales tax feature. Now, folks, I'm going to pause here for just a moment because I'm having an issue with my question panel. I'm trying to see if I've got any questions yet that I need to pass on to Lauren, but not as of yet. So with this new automated sales tax in QBO, your sales tax computation is done for you by use of zip code and street address along with the tax agency you select. The new feature selects the proper rates based on these factors: your address, the customer's address, the type of item being sold, and even the date that the item is being sold. And the new feature helps also in your payment of accrued sales tax to the appropriate agencies so that you'll never get penalized for not paying on time unless you simply ignore all of the messages about payment. Now, I bet all of this sounds almost too good to be true. So we want to take a look at this new feature and functionality. As I mentioned, at present, this new feature is only available to brand new users of QBO who have never turned on the sales tax prior to this rollout. This means that sales tax is not set up in their QBO at all. If sales tax was turned on at any time in the past prior to this rollout, even if it was never used, you'll not be able to use this new automated functionality until such time as Intuit begins to transition. In order to turn on this new feature, you first select taxes from the left-hand navigation bar. When you select taxes, you'll get this screen prompting you to set up sales tax. Clicking Set Up Sales Tax takes you to the next window where you'll confirm or enter your business address. By default, QBO will pull your current address from your current company records, and then you'll need to confirm that address. If you change the address in this window, it will be stored in your company settings as your company address. Based upon this address, QBO will select the appropriate sales tax agency or agencies for you. In this web-based world of e-commerce, many businesses are required to collect sales tax for multiple states and entities. So you'll be given that option in the next window. You might not know that you need to collect sales tax for another state at this point. So if you're not sure, then you can simply say no here, because you'll always be able to go back and add other tax agencies later. Now we need to continue on setting up our primary sales tax. Based again upon our zip code and street address, QBO has already selected our primary tax agency. In this case, it is the New York Department of Taxation and Finance. QBO wants us to provide the additional details. If we've ever had any sales tax dealings in the past, we probably know this information right off the top of our head. As you can see, we have entered information about the start of our current tax period, how often we have to file tax returns with the tax agency, and when we started collecting sales taxes for that agency. This information is extremely important, folks, especially these dates. Because this feature is rolling out to new users, chances are they'll be using the same starting date as they will be with their starting QuickBooks file. Just think about what makes sense. You don't want to put a date in which QuickBooks starts out thinking that you're already behind in remitting and reporting tax. Now, if you answered the question earlier about having additional jurisdiction, then you'll have an Add Agency button that allows you to provide this same information for each of the additional agencies to whom you must collect and remit and report tax. So, just a moment here. Lauren, if you're listening, I should have assigned you a question, and the question panel should be visible. The next step in this process is to identify the products and services with regard to their taxable status. So you're going to have to edit each item, selecting if it is taxable, and there's a checkbox for that. You'll see it shown in the green circle here. Then there are a couple of additional questions within this item setup that are related to the new sales tax feature once it's turned on. You wouldn't have seen these fields in the old sales tax. These two questions shown in the red box here further define the taxability of your products and services. The sales tax category is a broad description of the item. There are a limited number of choices within this drop-down list. This list is driven by state taxability based upon your sales tax laws, rules, and regulations. So here you can see that the sales tax category is a broad description of the items. There are a limited number of choices. And as I said, these choices are based directly upon the sales tax laws, rules, and regulations for the state agency that you're setting up. Make sure you select based upon what you know about the item you're selling. Chances are, again, if you've ever used any other method of tracking sales tax, you already know the special provisions, and that you can readily determine these categories. But my question is really, hopefully Intuit is going to have technical support that can help people with this, because many new people who are setting up QBO and starting to use sales tax for the very first time won't necessarily know if they are won't necessarily know the answer or whether they're coding these properly. And Lauren, if you would continue to answer the sales tax questions, whether if I assigned them or not, they should be appearing. Folks, we're having just a little problem with only one of us running both sides of this show. Now, once you selected the sales tax category, then you have to make a selection from the What You Sell list. The options within this drop-down list are also configured by your state sales tax laws and rules, and they're also driven by the selection you made in the sales tax category that you set up in the last step. These choices are also important because they can impact exactly how items and taxes are applied within various jurisdictions. Remember, I mentioned earlier, a winter coat may be taxed differently than a bathing suit in your state. While this can be a major advantage in helping to ensure you're always compliant, it also means that it is extremely important to set this information up right, because if you set it up wrong, then you may very well be non-compliant. Our items are not the only things that have to be set up for sales tax to work properly. You also have to ensure that each of your customers are set up properly. Now, a lot of small businesses, especially those with cash transactions, don't bother to capture each and every customer. So in many instances, they'll configure one customer as taxable and perhaps another customer as non-taxable. But really, you need to actually set up each non-taxable customer, because you're supposed to be capturing the information as to why that customer is not taxable. And their tax status may actually change from one product to the next. The exemption details is a field that allows you to capture their tax exemption permit number. And again, you have to capture the reason why they are exempt. This new program looks at several things when determining taxability and the rate of taxation. One of those factors is your own location, but your sales tax laws, rules, and regulations may require the point of taxation to be the delivery location. So the new feature is also looking at the shipping address of the customer to determine the rate, and not just based on the zip code, but the actual delivery street address. Remember the example of where I gave you, different tax rates simply because the address was across the street from each other? Finally, we're ready to process a transaction with sales tax. If we look at this invoice form, which happens to be for one pair of $125 jeans, we can see that unlike the original sales tax feature in QBO, we don't have a drop-down list to apply sales tax to an invoice. The new sales tax feature automatically applies the sales taxes based upon a number of factors, including the seller's address and the customer's ship-to address and the date of the transaction. It then determines the appropriate sales tax agency, and based upon the products and services entered, it will apply the sales tax category and the What You Sell classification to implement the various rules and regulations governing sales tax for the jurisdiction. The sales tax in this instance is computed based upon the taxable subtotal. In this case, we had a $125 taxable subtotal, and the sales taxes were $11.09. While the new system doesn't permit you to change the tax rate, as you could in the old system, you can override the sales tax amount. But before making any changes, you probably want to look at why the specific amount of tax was computed. And in order to do that, you just click this blue sales tax link. Then you get a pop-up that displays the various computations. You can see here an example of where the sales tax was computed at 4% for the state and 4.875% for the city of New York. And if you still don't understand it, you can even go down to the bottom of that window and get even more information. But as I mentioned a few moments ago, you can make changes to the actual sales tax amount. If you do, QBO pops up this message warning you, hey, do you know what you're doing? It tells exactly why it computed the information the first place and says, okay, if you want to override, fine, but it tries to make sure that you're aware of the fact that it's probably right and you're probably not. And it seems like I'm having to assign these questions every time, which I should not be, but hopefully everybody's question is getting assigned and hopefully Lauren is getting to them. We've got a lot of questions coming in. Now, this is an example of how the sales tax applies when you have categories that are different. And as it happens, New York has some strange ideas about the taxation of clothing. New York actually exempts clothing when the amount of the clothing is under $110 per item. The exemption only applies to clothing and shoes worn by humans. You can't exempt pet clothing. And it excludes costumes and formal wear, athletic equipment and protective gear, and anything that's heavily embellished, like it's got a lot of stones or jewels or etc. on it. And so while purchases of clothing under 110 are exempt from state tax, some jurisdictions on the local level have not followed suit with those. And so once again, it's extremely important that the proper rules are applied for each taxing agency. So in the case of our invoice where we had one pair of jeans, we've now added one sweatshirt that cost $52. And yet the system still computes the tax at the $11.09, just as it did when we only had the pair of jeans. By clicking on our blue link, we can see that we paid our 4% tax on the 125 pair of jeans, the 4.875 to New York City on the pair of jeans, but we didn't pay any tax to either New York State or New York City on our sweatshirt because it was under $110. The system worked just perfectly. In the sales tax dashboard, you'll see each of your tax agencies listed, and there'll be sections for returns that are past due, they're due this month, and they're coming due. And this is controlled by the frequency setting in the agency record. Now, the new feature doesn't at current offer electronic filing of sales tax, but you can get all the details you need so that you can file with your tax agency. And I'm betting that before long, we'll have electronic filing. So you're asking now, what about the rest of us? And I'm going to go assign some more of these questions. So give me just a moment. Because you may be asking in typed form, what about the rest of us? As I said, this is currently only available to new QBO users who've never turned on sales tax. And folks, that means never, ever, ever, never, never, ever having turned it on, even if you didn't use it. It's going to be a tricky conversion from the old system to the new, because when you think about it, you could have named anything as a tax agency. I, for example, in my current file, call the Oklahoma Tax Commission OTC, and yet, the new system clearly defines it as Oklahoma Tax Commission. And even with that slight variation, I've set up my tax one way based on my interpretation, and yet I don't clearly understand every rule. It's a good thing I don't really have anything that's taxable. There's so many variations that it's going to be a while before Intuit can, in fact, adapt and adopt everyone into this new system. And just yesterday, in fact, some people began reporting that there are issues if you have third-party products that also do sales tax calculations, because they want to go over to QBO and check what the sales tax setup was in QBO, and at present it can't read this new sales tax setup information if they're on the new sales tax. So there's going to be issues like that have to be resolved. It's a very complicating thing, and it's going to take time to manage, but I'm certain that Intuit plans on slowly but surely trying to roll this out to everyone. And I think probably Lauren is answering that for some people, but certainly, Lauren, if you want to chime in live and address that issue, we'd love to have you do that. But in the meantime, she's answering away, so I don't know whether she's going to get to that, but maybe at the very end of today's session, we can come back with that question. I think she's trying to chime in, but we're having real problems hearing you, Lauren, if that's you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pass the ball over to Liz. And Liz, are you there?
I am, and I see the ball, so I'm grabbing it. And do you see my screen now?
Yes, we do.
Super. Well, that was really good information about sales tax. I enjoyed that demo. And I feel like that sales tax is definitely not my area of specialties. So I am glad that we've got some help with being able to make sure that we're giving the right sales tax information to our clients, and having this new integration is going to be key. So I'm excited. So the other big thing that is new is price rules. And so with price rules, we had it available in our desktop products, and now we've got it available inside of QuickBooks Online, but it is beta. So we're going to go and look at price rules inside of QBO. And the way that price rules works is that we've got some variety on how we set it up and who we offer it to. We've got some choices if we want to offer it to all of our customers or specific customers. And then we've also got the choices to be able to offer our all of our products and services, or just some of our inventory. So we're able to pick categories. And then we've got 3 different choices on the way that we deliver our discounts or our increases. So we can do percentages, we can do a flat rate, or we can be really specific about what price we want to increase and have a exact dollar amount. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to go live into QuickBooks. So you should all be able to see my screen now. And with price rules, we have to first turn it on. And because this is a beta feature, we'll come over here into our list inside of our gear icon. And I think that everybody at this point has got this feature. If you don't, I think yesterday I was looking, I had a customer or 2 that didn't have it yet. You should have it soon. If you come over to all list, and we're going to pick on price rules. And as you can see right here, I've got 2 price rules that are set up already. And one of them is a Valentine's price. So if I come over and I look at my Valentine's price, I can see that I named my price rule Valentine's 10% discount. And I can change my name. And then I also decided that I want to offer this for the entire month of February. I came over and I decided that I wanted to select my customer type, which we're going to go look at here in a minute. But we now have customer type that is a add-on feature that is automatically turned on whenever we opt into price rules. So we can select a customer type, or we can say all customers, or we can come over here and we can say we want to select individual customers. And I can add customers by going through and going down my drop down. But if I come over here and I say I just want my residential type customers, then I can say what type of products and services do I want to offer this discount on. And here again, this is where we've got even more opportunities to get really specific about who gets this discount. So I'm able to say I want all of my services or all of my inventory or non-inventory, or I can say everything, all products and services, or I can come down here and I can select which category of items to offer this discount on. So in this situation, I'm going to pretend that I'm a landscaper. I'm going to give a Valentine's discount for all of my residential customers, so my residential type customers, and then my category of products and services called lawn care. And then I've got 3 different options. I can say a percentage, and then I can decide I want to increase or decrease. I can type in my percentage, and then I can opt into rounding. So in this case, I decided I want it to be an even dollar amount, so I can say apply. Or say that you like things that end in 99, so I can say always end in 99, so it adjusted my price. And then I can say save and close. Another way that we can use price rules is by saying that we want to do a coastal upcharge. So in this situation, we're going to increase our price because as pro advisors, if we're here centrally, the price is actually less than if we were on the coast. So if we had coastal customers, we would be able to say, always do a coastal upcharge. And I would be able to say, I want to select individuals. And so I could come through and I could add in all of my customers and build a list. Again, I could come over and select which items that I wanted to have affected by this price increase. And now I'm going to say it's a fixed amount, an increase by $50. And again, I can say rounding or no rounding. And so now I've got one customer that is affected by this new rule. And there's 3 services that I sell that are affected by this rule. And so every single time that I create an invoice, I'm going to have an automatic upcharge of $50. Another price rule that we can go ahead and create is we can say, oh, yes.
Would you go back over how you turn on price rules?
Sure, let me go back to that. So by going over to the gear icon, I can come over to all list, and I say that I want to turn on my price rules. And this one's already got it turned on. So let me go over to my slides, and let's do that in our slides because I think once you turn it on, it's hard to get back to it. So I can go over to Accounts and Settings, and I can turn on my price rules by going over to Sales.
Liz, we lost your audio. Did you hit your mute button? Can you hear me? Folks, I want to let you know that we are having one heck of a windstorm here in Oklahoma, and it very well could be
Hey,
that. Are you
I'm
back?
back. Yes,
Okay. I
the
was
call
just
ended.
explaining to
No warning.
them that we have quite a windstorm going on in Oklahoma, and that it could be that the wind blew your connection away.
We do.
We're glad you're back.
Oh, well,
So
thanks. I'm glad I'm back too. Yeah, today is 70 and tomorrow is supposed to be like 1 degree. So we definitely have weather happening. Okay, so I'm back. Let me dive back into where I was. So I was showing how to turn it on by going up to the gear icon, account settings, going over to my sales, and then opting into my price rules. And so you can turn that on right in here. I want to go ahead and create a new price rule. And I want to say that one of my new price rules is say that I want to have a family and friends price rule. I'm not going to have any start date or end date to my price rules. And I'm going to say I only want to have the customers typed friends and family. And so I've got my aunt and uncle that are sitting here, and so they're always going to have a discount. And I can say, what do I want to give them discounts to? I'm going to go ahead and say all products and services. And I'm going to do a percentage. So my friends and family are always going to get decreased by 10%. No rounding, and I'm going to say apply. So my two customers, aunt and uncle, are always going to get a 10% discount on anything I sell.
and I'm going to mention here, because a question's been asked, why don't I have customer types? That not everyone has customer types yet. It is on the rollout.
So if you've got price rules, you should be able to come over to customer types, and customer types lives inside of sales, customers, and then you should be able to go over to customer types. And so you should have the ability to add new customer types and assign customer types if you have opted into the new beta price rules. These two features right now are synced together. I think that later on they might decide to separate them, but for right now, if you opt into price rules, then you also get customer types. And so I'm able to come over here and see my friends and family. I could edit it. I could change the name if I wanted to. Or I could say, I'm going to start giving military customers a discount. And in that situation, the best way to ensure that you're getting all military customers a discount is to go set up the military customer type. So that way, every single time that that military customer comes in, if you've got the type of business that saves customer information, it'll automatically apply that discount, because we're going to say that we're not going to have a starter end date for our military discounts. So back over here, I'm going to go back to where it was sales, my customers, and then I'm going to say my customer types. And I'm going to assign a new customer type, and it's going to be my military discount. So I just created a new customer type. With customer types, now I can actually assign customer types in a batch. So I could come over here and say, I don't have a military customer yet, but let's go create one. So we're going to call this Dave Dan. And he's going to be a military customer. So in order
his title should be general.
He could be our 4-star general.
Or sergeant.
Or colonel. We have 3 dogs, and the one that's in charge, she's our full bird colonel. So she walks around and she tells all the other dogs what to do. So we have our Dave Dan is going to be our military customer. So I could come over here to additional information and I could assign which customer type he is, or I could do that here and I could save it. But I want to also show you that I can do it by batch action. So I can come over here and I can say Dave. Let me just type in David. And what did I call him? Did I say Dave? Maybe I didn't actually save my customer. So let's come back over here. Let's make a new one. So we're going to call him, I want to be able to see him easily. So I'm going to call him 13. Dave. Dan, and I don't think I actually saved him. So now I'm going to save him. So now if I go back over to my customer list, I see Dave Dan. I'm going to select his customer. And I could do multiple customers at a time by selecting the customer and then saying customer type. I want him to be military. And so this is the way that you could assign a customer type in batches. And then I'm able to see my customer type here inside of my customer information. And the way that I did that was I went over to my customer gear icon. So this is my customer settings, and I opted to show customer type. And so previously I didn't have that selected, but if I say customer type, now I'm able to see my customer type from here in the customer center. So now that I've got a military customer, I can come over to my all lists, price rules, and I can set a new price rule that's going to be military discount with no start or end date. And this is only going to affect the military type customers. Again, I can opt into what is it that I want to discount, everything or just particular types of items that I sell. And I can do a percentage, decrease by, and I think that the percentage is going to be the thing that's going to be used most often. I find that maybe the fixed amount will work in a lot of service areas, but really percentage is just going to be something that can easily be applied to just about any situation. And I'm going to say apply. And if I wanted to go look at what customer was affected, here is my Dave Dan military customer, and 16 of my products and services I was able to select. But if I wanted to only have maybe my military customers that I sell lawn care to, then again, I've selected my products and service category, lawn care, and then I can still have my same percentages, my same decrease, and my same rounding applied. And I'm going to save and close. One of the important things to notice on our price rules, if I come over and I look at, let's just look at our family and friends. And I look at my products and services. In order for the price rules to work, you must have a price assigned. So in order to be able to get the price rule to engage, I've got to be able to say what my sales price is. I don't have to have a cost price, but I have to have a sales price. Otherwise, it won't know what to decrease it by. But I'm going to come over here to sales. I'm going to look at products and services. And here's where I've actually set up some categories. And so you can enable categories in order to be able to assign a price rule to a category group of items. And that way you can easily assign types of products and services that you want to sell. But let's say that I wanted to, for my military customer, I wanted to say that I'm going to sell landscaping to him. I'm able to, with Dave, I'm able to say that I want my military discount to be opted into. And so I can see I haven't selected military is able to get a landscaping discount, but I could come over here and I could say, whenever it comes to my price rules and military, I want to always have the military discount for my $35. So I've adjusted that price. So I should be able to come over and create an invoice for Dave. And here's my default sales price, and my discount should have auto-generated. So I'm not sure why that one didn't work, but let's go pick a different one. Let's go say that we wanted to have our West Coast customer.
Probably has to do with having such a weird combination of of QuickBooks data services and lawn care in one file.
Well, I tried to give as many different examples as I could. So I think that I confused it by telling it too many different things. So let's come over here and let's say that I want to have my West Coast customer. This is the one that I said I want to increase by $50 each time that I tell it that I'm going to be doing services for the West Coast customers. So anybody who's coastal is going to get an increase. And so here you can see my coastal upcharge. Here's my default sales price, and here's my coast upcharge of $50. And it happened automatically for me. So I'm able to save this invoice. I could also create an invoice, and let's say that this is any customer. So let me just pick on a customer, and let's say that I told it in February that anybody who has sales in February is going to have a discount. And let's say lawn maintenance. And so here I'm able to see that I've got my February discount of 15%. So I can see my default rate of $75, and then here's my 15% discount for Valentine's. And this is because I've created that Valentine's discount for all activity in the month of February. Murph, do we have any questions?
Well, actually, the team from Intuit has just been taking questions right and left. I think Lauren's answered about 175 questions from 138 viewers. And Cheryl didn't have nearly as many people asking questions about the price rules. But folks, I want to mention here that we will have some of the most frequently asked questions associated with these two features included in the PDF of today's PowerPoint. So once again, you can go out to the Insightful Accountant homepage in a couple of days, and if you go up to that upper right corner, there's a search box, type in the word archive, and it'll take you to the article that has an archive of all of our recordings as well as the PDFs associated with each of the webinars that we've issued PDFs for. So I'm going to take the ball back just a moment, and when you know I am not really prepared, so I've got to go right here. And yes, that was where I wished I was, fishing on the river. But Here I am, and I need to remind you that we are having an App Academy webinar tomorrow. We're going to be covering BQE Core for your practice. It's at 1 p.m. The registration link is down here, but you can also just go to our homepage at Insightful Accountant, and you'll find this webinar listed as the very top in our feature column, top article in our feature column. And I wrote a multi-part article series back, I think November, about BQE and what an outstanding product it is. This is an opportunity for you to see it live in demonstration if you haven't already seen it. And Steve Burns, their Chief Creative Officer, will in fact be performing that live demo. So you may want to tune in tomorrow for the Insightful Accountant App Academy webinar. And I want to thank Liz for especially doing a great job on presenting the price rules. And I certainly want to thank both Lauren and Cheryl, who have worked themselves to death. Their little fingers are probably down to the nubs from typing answers to all your questions. I also want to thank each of you, and I want to remind you that next month on February the 14th, our QB Talks will be covering the QuickBooks Point of Sale Desktop 2018. My good friend William English, who is undoubtedly the most knowledgeable expert on QuickBooks Point of Sale on the planet, will be presenting a deep dive into this newest release of Intuit's QuickBooks Point of Sale Desktop. You won't want to miss this opportunity to get all the details about the new product, including how to use it from a Microsoft Surface tablet computer. That's what I said, folks. This new version of QuickBooks Point of Sale Desktop will run and support hardware on the Microsoft Surface tablet computer. And lastly, I want to thank each of you for joining us today and for Liz helping out this old desktop dinosaur get through all this new QBO stuff, because she really is my resource for everything QBO. So thanks again, and thanks to Lauren and Cheryl especially for being here. And so I will tell everyone goodbye, and we'll hope to see you tomorrow and next month.
Bye, everyone.